James McClure, the minister for the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. I'm so glad that you've joined us for our midday devotional. We committed to doing the midday devotional. Can you believe it? It's been almost a month ago. And our commitment is to bring lessons, songs of encouragement to uplift us throughout this COVID-19 crisis. So every day, beginning at 11:30 a.m., we will begin with just singing, just uplifting singing. Singing does something for the spirit, and our objective is in the midst of you working from home, working in your office, maybe uh, having to just be away from loved ones, lack of communication physically with family and friends. The objective is simply to draw everyone closer together in spirit. At noon, we will do a lesson together. This week, we will focus on domestic violence and how the COVID 19 virus might be impacting homes in a more severe way than normal, just with the amount of domestic violence that's taken place or potentially could take place. Let's begin just with some great singing. This song is an old song featuring Brother Robert Ivory, gospel preacher who has gone on to be with the Lord. But the song is filled with a lot of memories, and it's one of the great songs that has lasted through time. He used to have spirit of the Lord down within, down there, almost we used to hear our home church singing, but now once in a while we can hear you singing over here. We used to sing we don't sing like that anymore. There's what we need to do. We need to go back to the old way. Yes, we need to get down. We need to we need to go back to
Whoa, when we reach that city of the New Jerusalem, oh, we're gonna sing, yeah, we're gonna sing, oh, by and by. Oh, how the ransomed singers will together lift that hymn when we sing, oh, yes, oh, whoa, what joy when we all get to heaven in glory resting. We're gonna rest in that cloudless in heaven in that land. Tell me the saints never, never, never die. Oh, we're gonna sing, we're gonna sing. Oh, by, yeah, by. Here's another thing. In that mighty chorus, voices will so sweetly blend when we sing hallelujah. Oh, yeah. We'll be happy cause gone will be all our sadness. Pleasures that will never, 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 never end when we sing. Oh, sing hallelujah. And when we make it over there, victory and love will be our everlasting theme. That's when we'll sing hallelujah. Oh, by and by. Oh, we'll be praising our Redeemer beside the crystal stream up in heaven. I want to see you there. Whoa, by and whoa, what joy when we all get a chance to sit down and talk to Jesus and thank him cause we made it over. God can just see us sitting down in that land. Tell me the saints never have to say goodbye. Up there we're gonna sing, yeah, we're gonna sing. Oh, and I can just hear the angels singing. Oh, can you imagine that? Can you imagine us all gathered beneath that cloudless dome? They tell me that there's peace up there in that land where the saints never die. Come on, everybody, don't you wanna go? Don't you wanna go? Sing hallelujah. Oh, and what joy! Oh, you're talking about a wonderful time beneath the cloudless sky. Oh, yeah. And tell me the saints never, never, never die. We're gonna sing hallelujah. Come on, come on, come on. And listen to the angel. What joy when we all get to heaven. Oh, yes. Sit down in that cloudless dome. And in that land, in that wonderful land where the saints don't die. Lord, we're gonna sing. I can just see us singing hallelujah by and oh, sing hallelujah up there. Yeah, we're gonna shout. Ha, turn it out by and by. Got a made up mind. Yeah. No, I ain't going nowhere. Going nowhere. I put my trust in God. Yes, I did. My Jesus. 'Cause I know He can. Ooh, listen. Every time I turn around, seems like all I hear is bad news. So I called a few friends to make me feel better. No, but it seems like everybody's singing the blues. Talking about the recession. Hey, and this this mess that our nation is in. You know, times are getting hard and it make you want to give up sometimes. But as for me, I'm gonna stick it out till the end. So here's what I tell all my friends. I ain't going nowhere. Hey, I put my trust in Jesus. I trust in God. And He's gonna take care of me. Cause I know He can. No, we're living in the last days. And there's trouble on every hand. See, we got women trying to marry women. Lord have mercy. Hey, and we even got a man trying to marry a man. We can't even trust our leaders. Cause all they do is steal, cheat, and lie. All of them many are depressed about the situation. I know everything's gonna be fine. Here's why, cause I got a real mind. Yes, I do. And I ain't going nowhere. Put my faith in God a long time ago. And I know He's gonna work it out. Cause I know He can. When there's trouble in the home is all wrong. The kids in control cause the parents ain't got a clue. But y'all do hear. Hey, when the people are dying, the children are crying, the preachers are lying, and they won't even tell the truth. Lord help us here. And we can't even see there's a man on the street with no food to eat. The refrigerator's full of food. Oh, yeah. Seems like it's all going wrong. Makes you wanna throw up your hands and holler. But I wanna let you know with the words of this song. Oh my God's gonna straighten it out. No matter what the problem is, gonna straighten it out. He knows what's going on. Yes, He does. He sees it all. He's keeping record. Yes, He is. He's gonna straighten it out. I can hear Him saying, sit yourself down. Yes, talk to me. Tell me what's on your mind. So I told the Lord about these troubles, and He assured me everything was gonna be alright. Ever since then, doesn't matter if it's good times or bad times. Don't matter if sunshine or rain. I know that weeping endures for a night. Yes, it does. But in the morning, in the sunshine is coming. Hey, even when I get down to my feet, I ain't gonna lose. Got a made up mind, and I'm going through. Money's tight, yes it is. Them bills are due, but I ain't gonna lose. No, I ain't gonna lose. No, yeah. Get my mind made up. Yes I do, yes I do, yes I do, yes I do.
Someone asked me the other day, do you think the end of the world is coming? Yes, I think it's coming, but we don't know when. Well, the COVID-19, people said it's global, it hit the whole world, so isn't that an indicator that the world is coming to an end? Well, maybe, maybe not. But we have to keep reminding ourselves, no one knows the day, the minute, or the hour. What we are aware of is that Jesus is coming. So therefore, it's our responsibility to just be ready whenever that day is. This next song is by Brother Darren Mason Sr., and it's simply entitled, Jesus is Coming Soon. But keep in mind, we don't know when that soon will be.
Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedoms we all hold dear, now it's at stake. Humbling your hearts to God, safe from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away, Christians away. And Jesus is coming soon. Lord, morning or night or noon. Oh, and many will meet there too. And the trumpets will sound. Trumpets will surely sound. In all of the dead shall rise. The righteous meeting in the sky will be going where no one dies. Heavenward bound. Singing the love of so many go, losing their homes of gold. This is God's word, we've been told. Evils abound. All has come to pass, nearing the end. At last, Lord, it will come very, very, very fast. The trumpets will sound. Trumpets will sound. And Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming soon. Lord, morning or night or noon. Well, meet there too. Oh, the trumpets will sound. Trumpets will surely sound. All of the dead shall rise. The righteous in the sky will be going where no one dies. Heavenward bound. Troubles will soon be over. We'll be happy, happy forevermore when we meet on that shore, free from all care. You know that we'll be rising up in the sky, telling this old world goodbye. Onward with thee shall fly, and glory to share. Glory to share. Jesus is coming soon. Morning, night, and many, yes, many meet there too. And those trumpets will sound. Trumpets will surely sound. And all of the dead shall rise. Righteously in the sky, going where no one dies. Heavenward bound. And Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming soon. Morning or night or noon. Yes, and many will meet. He will meet there too. Cause the trumpets will sound. Trumpets will surely sound. All of the dead shall rise. The righteous in the sky. Going where no one dies. So they're gonna be going where no one dies. Way over yonder, where no one dies. Gonna be one day, no one dies. Back down here where no one dies. I'm going where no one dies. Going where no one dies. We will meet in the sky to know what it means. Where no one dies. Going where no one dies.
We're all heavenward bound. Here's a question. What's on your mind today? Today is Tuesday. We had a great worship on Sunday. Uh, Yesterday, we began a series of lessons on domestic violence. But what's on your mind today? Uh, if you can express it through our Facebook page, uh, share with me what you're thinking today. Uh, this is a song entitled Running Away by Chris Turner.
400 years of slavery, thousands of years ago. The rulers were so unkind, but the people were so bold. God heard the people crying. He talked to Moses face to face. He said, "Go get my children, find a better place." Then they were running away to find a better place. Said they were running away to find a better place. Time came to go. God said, "Make haste, run on away to find a better place." 200 years of slavery, 400 years are gone. Look how long we've been running and we still haven't made it home. God sees the people dying, boys like the days of old. Save to one for when it's time to go. Like Moses, run away to find a better place. Like you saved Jesus, run away to find a better place. Signs of the judgment staring right in your face. Running away to find a better place. Oh, my Jordan, Lord, Lord, I'm going to Beulah. Oh, yeah. The New Jerusalem. Yeah. I'm going to Canaan. We're gonna do it again. Oh, I'm running away to find a better place. Running away to find a better place. We're gonna run on. Running away to find a better place. Find us a better place. Running away to find a better place. Listen to me. Don't think our situation is just a hopeless case. Same set of circumstances in a different place. What if we ask the Lord for deliverance? When we pray, would He do like He did our fathers? So get up and find a better place. Yeah, yeah. Running away to find a better place. Oh Lord, running away to find a better place. Take the seal off the books, bring back glory day. Running away to find a better place. We're gonna run away to find a better place. Running away to find a better place. Anybody wanna running away to find a better place? Tell them we're just running away to find a better place. Oh, my Jordan, going to Beulah, yeah. The New Jerusalem. Going to Canaan. We're gonna do it again and again and again and again. Yeah. Running away to find a better place. Here we are. Running away to find a better place. 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 Running away to...
We have time for one more selection, and then we will do our morning devotional.
Lord, you made me new. I offer praise to you. I was lost in my sin, and my Jesus in a world with no place to stay. And for my sins, but my Jesus, His love shown was for real. By His stripes now I am healed. Oh yeah, the reason I praise Him. This is the reason I praise him. This is the reason I serve him. This is the reason I serve him. This is the reason I thank him. I thank him because he died. Oh, why did he have to die for me? I don't deserve his grace, you see. He died. He died for me. He was there for me. Thank you, Lord, for Calvary. What can I do to keep it right? Just for you, walk in the light and show love to my fellow man. And for your word, I'll take my stand. I'll do exactly. And for all you've done for me, Lord, I can't help but sing. This is the reason I praise you. Gotta sing. This is the reason I serve you. Gonna serve you every day, Lord. This is the reason I thank him. I thank him for what he's done on Calvary to save a little wretch like me. Oh, he died for me, yeah. Oh, well, you ought to praise him, serve him, thank him for everything he's done for me. Serve him for my health, my sins, my every need. Serve him. What more could I even say? Serve him. But to thank him. This is the reason I praise him. Said I think about how that every day. This is the reason I serve him. And oh, how that this side. This is the reason I thank him. He hung his head and died for me, yeah. Roll me up beside. I was sinking down deep in sin. The Jesus took me up. He washed all my sins away. Gave me a brighter day. Praise his name, 'cause his love never changed.
I'm glad that you've joined us for our Tuesday devotional. We are studying this week a topic that may not be as comfortable, but I will assure you it is a very uplifting, optimistic topic for all of us to look at. And that is the topic of domestic violence, because the objective throughout the COVID-19 crises is to keep people safe. That's the entire objective of all of the helpers, the doctors, the nurses, the first-hand responders such as the police, the fire workers. Everyone's objective is to keep people safe and to keep people with a positive outlook on what the future is going to be. One of the areas that we cannot overlook is the physical, emotional, mental safety of people when it comes to the potential for abuse. Now, people often speak of domestic abuse as a choice, but in reality, abusers make many choices over a long period of time. Choices that stem from the belief that abusive behavior is a legitimate way to create and to maintain their rightful position of power and privilege within the entire family. So I want you to understand the mind of the abuser is, I must maintain my status quo even during a crisis such as COVID-19. Now, in the abuser's mind, they think they are entitled to act as they do. I want you to understand what I just said. In the abuser's mind, they feel they are entitled to act and to behave the way they do, regardless if it's a COVID-19 crisis or not. At the root of this abnormal behavior, domestic abuse is motivated by the desire to gain and to keep control and to maintain that control over the individual by making a lot of rapid fire small choices about how they're going to continue to keep that control. So in essence, in the abuser's mind, they are already planning, thinking about, when I finish this attack, how am I going to come at the abused again? In the abused mind, they're thinking, well, if they go on and get this attack out of the way, they will leave me alone. They're, they are at the opposite ends of the spectrum of thought. The domestic abuser is saying, I've got to maintain the control. And I know this one action that I'm putting out right now is not going to keep the control. So after I finish this, then later on I'm going to do this and then this and then this in order to maintain the control emotionally, mentally, sexually, financially over the individual that is abused. Now, one reason more men than women abuse their partners may be that men more often have power over a partner that they see as worth defending. But the feeling of entitlement is also influenced by the attitudes, the values, the perceptions, the feelings, and by what the individual learned. And I said this on yesterday, what they learned while they were growing up. The person, let's say that you're married to, that you're dating, that person didn't start their abusive chaos when they met you. They were already operating from that mindset. Because from a child, like Paul reminded Timothy, from a child, he had known the Holy Scriptures. People who are abusers from a child learn the art of abuse. I said one reason more men than women abuse, but I did not say women are not abusers. There are women who abuse men. And one of the things that often flies below the radar is the fact that men are being abused. The reason it flies below the radar is people see men as macho and boisterous, and they're saying, no woman can abuse that man. But the type woman that will abuse a man, you can't just look at her on the surface. You can't just listen to how she speaks, because just like men, women abuse. But just like men, you can't just look at them and tell who they are. So now, why might, whether it's a man or a woman, why might they abuse one another? Well, one reason may be they think it's allowing them to be able to do as they please. It's their way of getting their way. It's their way of getting their partner to comply with their demands, to cater to them, and to let them have their way. It also might be an opportunity for gaining unlimited access to the partner's money, the time, their attention, their caretaking, their labor, and their sexuality. In other words, you are supposed to basically take care of me. So if I abuse you, you're going to gladly, well, not gladly, but you're going to give me your money in order to avoid the abuse. You are going to gladly, well, not really gladly, but you're going to surrender your time to the abuser in order for them not to abuse you. You're going to gladly give them attention. No, not really gladly give them attention, but you're going to give them your attention in order for them not to abuse. You're going to take care of them. You're going to labor for them. You're going to be intimate with them, thinking falsely that if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, they're going to see me and appreciate me, and they're going to stop abusing me. Well, let me give you the prognosis of people who abuse. Typically, they don't stop because it's their way of survival. But the sad scenario is they will abuse the people who want to help them the most. But they don't care. There's a passage in the Old Testament in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 25. The story is about a man by the name of Nabal who lived down in the land of Maon, Maon, and it was next door to Carmel. Well, it was in the land of Judah, and he was a very wealthy man. He was a very well-known man down in the land of Maon and around the areas of Carmel. But the Bible says Nabal was a fool. His wife called him a fool. He was an abusive person. He tried to abuse David. Abuse him sexually? No. But he tried to abuse him emotionally. He tried to withhold the needs of life from David, and David was willing to pay for it. He said, who in the world is David? I don't know David. I don't have any respect for David. Now, here's the crazy about abusive people. He's married, the Bible says, to a beautiful woman, intellectually and physically. But he was still an abusive person. Typically, this is what happened with abusive people who have it in their heart. They will abuse anybody. They don't care who they abuse. They can have the most beautiful family. They can have opportunities galore. And yet, in their hearts, because their heart has been broken and shattered, they will abuse anybody. So if they abuse David, I wonder if Abigail was living in abuse also. Nabal mistreated David's servants. Do you see the picture I'm painting? With an abusive person, whoever pushed their button the wrong way, they are subject to be abused by that individual because that's what the individual knows. So, people who are abusive are accustomed to hurting, to betraying, to cheating people, to arguing with them. They'll pick a fight in a minute because that's what they know. But they're trying to take control of the conversation. They'll lie, they'll curse, they'll humiliate you publicly, and they're going to make demands that are absolutely absurd. They're unreasonable. And at the most inopportune time, they will hit you with something that will almost just cut you to the core. That's textbook abusive behavior. Now, during the COVID-19 crisis, because of the close proximity that individuals are in, there's a higher probability that the nasty, abusive behavior is going to surface. Psychologists have basically documented this over a wide spectrum. Let me share one with you today because we're going to address this throughout the week. Psychologist Nadine Caslow from Emory University, she has a PhD in behavioral science, she said There are other factors that may also contribute to the uptick in intimate partner violence during this COVID 19 crisis. Among them, there are fewer options to find safety or help. Guess who knows that the abused have fewer options? The abuser. The abuser knows that the person being abused can't go to a friend's home. They can't go into the workplace and stay long hours. They can't stay away from the home after work hours. And yet, Dr. Nadine Caslow said that can escalate and open doors for abuse during this COVID 19 crisis because the abuser knows that the people they typically abuse don't have many options in terms of where to go. Now, before the pandemic, a survivor or victim could flee a violent situation by staying with family members, going to a shelter, or filing a protective order with the police. Now, for many, such options aren't easily available right now. Even filing for a protective order, you've got to go through the courts. And in many jurisdictions, the courts have limited dockets. Guess who knows that? The abuser. Guess who know that Auntie Sally and Play Cousin Sue love you dearly? But guess who know that Auntie Sally and Play Cousin Sue are probably not going to open their home to you? The abuser knows that. At the same time, these shelters are closing. Resources such as emergency rooms are full of people who don't want to go out in the public. These emergency rooms, the hospitals are already full. So people who are being abused, let's say being hit or beat, they don't want to go and get the treatment. Guess who knows that? The abuser. So if nobody is wanting to go out, the abuser is saying, now you're going to sit here and hurt physically with pain because you don't want to go and get the COVID 19 virus by exposing yourself to a medical center. It almost sounds satanic, doesn't it? It's kind of sickening, isn't it? But these are things that the medical professionals are dealing with every day. The resources, the outlets, the abuser know that those are limited now. But the abused understand, I can't go where I used to go. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the risk that children are at during the COVID 19. But I want you to rejoice in this lesson because what I'm doing is exposing. I'm bringing to light abnormal behavior. And that which is brought to light can be seen. And that which can be seen many times can be addressed. As I did on yesterday before closing the lesson, because of the nature of this lesson, I want to give you a toll-free number that is a domestic abuse hotline number. You may never need it, but you may have a call from a friend. You may have a call from a neighbor. You may have a call from a family member that might need the resource that you have at your disposal. The domestic line hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. Again, that's 1-800-799-7233. And if you find yourself subjected to domestic violence, domestic abuse, please reach out for help. Feel free to give me a call, 301 333 5150. But if you are in imminent danger, call 911 or call the domestic hotline number. See, calling a friend when you are